I researched 3 different studies to uncover the hidden secrets of Zone 3, and this completely changed my opinion on it. Zone 3, otherwise known as the tempo zone, is massively frowned upon in the endurance community, and I'd like to know if there's any truth behind this. So today, I want to take you through my entire journey of what I learned about Zone 3 training. So I decided to look up some studies. The first few I came across didn't sound all that promising, but I did end up learning that apparently training in the tempo zone can enhance the flavour of your food due to the increased blood flow in your body. Now that might sound irrelevant, and that's because it is. Moving that out the way, I had to dig deeper. I came across my first real study, and this is where it all clicked. There's not actually anything inherently wrong with Zone 3. All the negativity surrounding it is all to do with something called the tempo plateau. This is essentially poor recovery from overtraining, because to train in Zone 3, you're pushing your body outside its easily recoverable zone into a high level of stress. It's the repeated use of this Zone 3 work, which is unknowingly done, that causes compromised recovery. Simply put, people think they're running in Zone 2, the recovery zone, but they're actually running too fast and slipping into the tempo area, which is what impacts recovery negatively. So here, I started to think useless is actually the wrong word for Zone 3. Misunderstood fits what's going on here a lot better. From my beginning thoughts, it's now strange to see Zone 3 in a positive light, and I bet you're feeling the same. But this story doesn't just end here. We're only getting started. I then found pretty much a counter-argument in this Training Peaks article, which suggested that for most people, focusing on polarized training is a better use of time. Now we all know polarized training is where most of your time running is spent in Zone 2 and a smaller amount in Zone 4 and 5, creating a gap in the middle zone. But why would this be better? Zone 2 training promotes recovery and improves our ability to use fat as energy. Zones 4 and 5 improve our speed through lactate endurance and improve our ability to use carbs as fuel. Here, the argument against Zone 3 is that you're just burning a mixture of carbs and fat, never making yourself efficient at burning either. And this left me feeling like I hadn't really got anywhere, which didn't really sit right with me. I'm the type of person where if I set out on a task, I want an answer. So I checked to see if there was anything else I was missing, because right now I was 50-50 on Zone 3's usefulness. And this is where the last article comes into play, which was the most interesting and the one I agreed with most. In this article by Joe Friel, he talks about how Zone 3 training can be useful, as long as it's beneficial for your race goal. So what type of races could utilize the tempo zone? Well, anything that's between 2 and 7 hours will likely have you in Zone 3 or 4 for the majority of the race. So if we're racing at this pace, why does everyone say that we shouldn't train at this pace? This question leads us to the main takeaway from all of this research. The reason people dislike Zone 3 is because of the impact on recovery. However, in this article, I found the solution around that. Zone 3 training shouldn't actually be used from the very beginning of your race plan. It should be introduced when you get a month into your first block. Why? Because as mentioned earlier, it's harder to recover from Zone 3 training in comparison to Zone 2. So we use Zone 2 in the base part of the program, then we progress to the build section, and this is where we introduce Zone 3 training. But again, only if your race calls for it. In summary, the most important factor for determining whether or not you need Zone 3 is if your race is between 2 and 7 hours, or if it's going to be ran in Zone 3. So let's think marathon distance. You likely want to include some Zone 3 training when you're about a month into your program. But how much? Let's give an example week for a marathon training plan. Imagine this is a month into the plan and you're just starting your build phase. You can see here, we're still getting plenty of recovery from easy runs alongside some more challenging work. For most runners, I'd only suggest performing 1 tempo run a week in the early plan. Then as you get closer to the race, we want to get more specific, so then we could boost that up to 2. Now, if you feel like you've learned something new in this video, don't forget to hit the like button below. So let's draw this all together. Zone 3 training is not useless, but it can be detrimental to recovery if overused. It should only be trained if it's race specific, and even then, it should be an accessory to polarized training. It should also be trained nearer to the race and not in base season. Finally, Zone 3 training makes food taste better. Now I'm aware there's been a lot of talk about zones in this video, and you might not be completely sure about how fast to run and train inside these zones. That's why I've created this video, which will educate you on absolutely everything that you need to know about using your heart rate to train. So go watch that next.